Thanks for joining us for Issues and Answers. I'm Ian Boyne. Today we focus on the tertiary sector, that critical sector. We have with us Mrs. Maxine Henry Wilson, who is CEO of the Jamaica Tertiary Education Commission. We hope we'll have some of your questions answered. We thank you for your company. Good to have you on the program.
Thanks for having me. My pleasure.
The commission was launched recently. What is the background to the establishment of the Jamaica Tertiary Education Commission?
We launched a National Qualifications Framework, which is really a tool that will be used both by the Commission and other tertiary institutions and perhaps even private citizens to be able to position various qualifications relative to each other. So we think of qualifications in Jamaica as certificates, diplomas, bachelors, etc. But there are many others that may not have those designations. So we need now to know where do they fall in terms of tertiary awards and what value are they to the holders. And that's an important part of the Jamaica Tertiary Education Commission's work, because one of our primary responsibilities is to be able to look at the development of the tertiary sector as a whole. We're not involved with individual institutions, although we will work with them. But our mandate is to ensure that we have a 21st century tertiary education system which can provide the country with the kind of skills, human capital and competencies that will be required for us really achieving our objectives as a nation, our goals as a nation. And it is actually mentioned in the 2030 vision, the importance of having a tertiary sector that it fits into our national development imperatives. So that is one of the primary functions that we will look at the landscape, we will get information about who is operating there, we will match that against what is required for us to become a first world country, as I said. And then we will say, okay, there are gaps in terms of scientific development, there are gaps in terms of technology, there are gaps in terms of our being able to deal with some of the new skills and that are required in the marketplace.
And you would make recommendations for policy action?
Make recommendations for policy action, look at incentives that can be offered, probably work with some institutions who can transform themselves and begin to adopt and adapt some of the new requirements for development. Methodologies that would ensure that we have greater access, because access is an important part of the tertiary development. And other recommendations about things like financing, not just tuition fee financing, but institutional development. How do we develop our institutions so that they are able to be located within the framework of 21st century tertiary education?
So the mandate is quite broad. It's not just a matter of looking to certification.
No. While we would want to validate those kinds of things through whatever mechanisms we have, and we also would give institutional support. For instance, now we're working on a strategic plan for teacher education. Teacher education has really to be transformed from the kind of didactic pedagogy. And it has to be transformed, not just because, this is where the world is going, but we are going there with the National Standards Curriculum, which, as the minister stated in his press conference 2 days ago, will be rolled out fully in this September, or it's being piloted now. And that is because we need a different type of product, from our general education system. It will be more project-based, it will be more learner-centered, so that the learners are at the center of what we're trying to do. It will be more skills and competency-based. So your teachers have to be a product of that. They have to deliver that as well. And the way in which teacher education is developing in the rest of the world, while we don't just uncritically adopt what is done, we recognize that, yes, we have to be a part of the trend. And set our own parameters, of course.
So the Commission has to keep abreast of what is happening in education globally.
Yes. And in fact, that is explicitly stated in our forthcoming, in one of the forthcoming pieces of legislation, that you should be informing, you should be assessing exactly what is happening in the world and communicating that both in terms of policy suggestions or other types of instruments to the minister and to the affected bodies.
And how would you relate to the University Council of Jamaica?
Okay, so the University Council of Jamaica has done a splendid job in terms of quality of the curriculum programs that are being offered by institutions. However, the gap, which was recognized from as far back as 1991 by Philip Sherlock in his report, is that you do, and at that time the University Council was just developing, and it kind of morphed into an entity that took into consideration some of the gaps that he had found, but they continue to be inadequately filled. So one of the issues that is raised is, and you can have any number, and we do have institutions operating in Jamaica now, providing tertiary level education according to them. But we don't know that they are actually operating until something happens.
Yes.
Or an institution can close, and then the question is, who is responsible? So our mandate really starts from the word that we are a gatekeeper. We are not there to close the gate, but we are there to ensure that whoever is admitted meets the standards of a tertiary level institution. Not only must they meet the standard, but there are different types of tertiary level institutions. And we have to ensure that if you say that you're a university, that you have all the attributes and you meet the standards of university education. A college, an institute, so we go right through and we use basically the definition of UNESCO with due regard for our local, our domestic environment. But tertiary, we say tertiary is global, so as everything, other education, of course, but because you are now a career to career, you are now a part of a labor force, you're a citizen, you have to ensure that whatever qualifications you get, that you can take it with you anywhere you go in the world. So institutions have to be very cognizant of that.
Absolutely. We're speaking to someone with considerable experience in the field of education, former education minister and CEO of the Jamaica Tertiary Education Commission. We take a break, but we'll be right back.